I remember the air in Southampton that morning, damp, salted, full of excitement. Crowds gathered as if the entire city had come to witness a miracle. Newspaper boys shouted headlines. Porters hauled trunks. Mothers held babies wrapped in wool. And there she stood, the RMS Titanic, a floating palace, her smokestacks reaching skyward like industrial cathedrals. I clutched my suitcase tightly. Inside, just my uniform, a tin of lavender salve, and a photograph of my parents. My heart raced, though trained in the crowded wards of London hospitals. Nothing prepared me for this. My name is Evelyn Cross, and I had been chosen to serve aboard the greatest ship ever built. A steward greeted me, his gloves white as bone. "Miss Cross?" he asked with a courteous bow. I followed him through gleaming halls, past brass railings and walnut-paneled corridors, down to the medical quarters below deck. My cabin was modest, just a bunk, a wash basin, and a tiny porthole, but it felt like a palace. I unpacked my things, placing my diary beside the bed and pinning a small cross near the mirror. The matron stopped by shortly, a tall woman with steel gray hair and a voice like parchment. "We keep order here, Miss Cross," she said. I nodded, hiding my nerves. That evening, I explored the upper decks. The ship shimmered with polished brass and starched white linens. First-class passengers glided past in furs and feathers, laughter trailing behind them like perfume. I felt invisible, but oddly content. Before sleep, I stood at the railing. The sea stretched endless and black. "The sea is calm," I wrote in my diary, "and I am ready." The first days blurred together like soft waves brushing the hull. Mornings began with tea and the gentle vibration of the engines beneath my feet. I spent the early hours preparing tinctures, checking on those sensitive to the sea, and watching sunlight pour in through tiny portholes dancing across brass fixtures. Some passengers treated illness as novelty. One elderly gentleman asked if ginger really worked or was just an old wives' tale. I smiled and said, "Sir, many old wives have saved lives." He laughed so hard he forgot to be sick. I met a girl named Eileen, about 17, from County Cork. She had the hands of a farmer's daughter and the hopeful eyes of someone chasing a dream. She showed me a worn letter from her sweetheart back home, her thumb brushing the ink like it was sacred. Evenings were my favorite. The moon rose like a pearl over the sea. I'd stand at the stern where the world was quiet, just the churn of the water and the hum of the ship. Sometimes I'd hear piano music drifting from first class, a waltz perhaps, fading into the wind. One night, a French violinist collapsed from fatigue. I sat beside him in the infirmary, and as he rested, he softly played a lullaby, fragile and haunting. I listened, eyes stinging with tears, not sure if they were his or mine. There was magic in the air, not of fairy tales, but of shared humanity. Stories, glances, brief kindnesses between strangers. Titanic wasn't just a marvel of engineering, it was a living, breathing world. There was a shift in the air. The breeze felt colder, sharper, as if the sea had exhaled something ancient. Ice traced the railings like silver lace, melting beneath my fingers. A steward made light of it, joking about iceberg country. I forced a laugh, but inside I shivered, not from cold, but from a knowing unease. The sky was too still, the sea too flat, like holding one's breath. That night, over a cup of tea, Matron Clark told me war stories from the Crimea. "It's the quiet days that last in your bones," she said. Her eyes drifted to the porthole and didn't move for a while. Later, I walked the deck alone. The sky was ink black, stars brighter than I had ever seen. No moon, no wind, just starlight and silence. I felt suspended, like we floated not on sea but on time itself. When I returned to my room, I opened my diary and paused. The pen hovered before I wrote. Tonight feels like the breath before a prayer. It was just before midnight when the stillness was broken. At first it felt like nothing, only a soft, strange shiver that passed through the floorboards and up my spine. A soundless nudge, as though something vast had whispered against the ship's skin. The engine slowed, then halted completely. A strange quiet followed. No thrum, no hum, just an unnatural hush. I slipped on my shoes and coat, my breath shallow, and stepped into the corridor. All around me, doors creaked open and worried faces peeked out. A steward passed us, smiling too quickly. "Routine inspection," he said, voice too high. We wanted to believe him. Some did. But I could feel it, something deeper than fear. Something ancestral, the kind of knowing that comes from silence. I gathered my satchel and made my way to the infirmary, stocked it blindly. Bandages, smelling salts, antiseptic. My hands moved automatically, my thoughts elsewhere. I didn't know what I was preparing for, only that I had to be ready. A mother sat in the hallway holding her frightened child. I knelt and gave the boy a peppermint. "Everything is fine," I whispered. A lie, but a necessary one. The kind we tell to keep the world steady for just a moment longer. Above deck, the air bit colder than before. Officers clustered in tight circles. I caught fragments. Ice, starboard, damage. Then Matron Clark found me, her face unreadable. "Steerage," she said. "They need us." The air below was stifling. Panic was beginning to bubble. I saw women clutching rosaries, children clinging to sleeves, men pacing with wide eyes. We brought blankets and calm words. We held trembling hands. We guided them upward, toward air, toward hope. The cold hit harder now, like knives. Every breath visible, every step slower. The stars looked sharper, merciless in their beauty. Time stretched strangely. Orders were being given, lifeboats uncovered, names called. Women hesitated. They clutched their husbands, their sons. "I won't leave him," one cried. "Not without him." I saw raw love that night, terrifying and selfless. I whispered to them, begged gently. Some stepped in, some didn't. One mother pressed her infant into my arms, eyes wild. "Take him," she said, "please." I cradled the child against my chest, heart pounding. He was warm and alive and utterly fragile. I sang to him softly as we walked to Boat 9. At Boat 9, I help women step in one by one. My voice was calm, but inside I felt I might split. Each pair of eyes I met held a story, a home, a name, a dream. I told each, "You're safe now." I wasn't sure it was true. A sailor kissed a locket before lowering the ropes. His hands trembled, but he did not cry. The boat descended into darkness, the groan of the pulley echoing like a hymn. I stayed behind. My place wasn't in the boat. It was here, with those still waiting. There was no fear in me anymore, just purpose. The deck had changed. It leaned only slightly, but enough. The groan of steel beneath our feet was unmistakable. I joined two other nurses by the railing. We didn't speak, just held hands like children in the dark. Boat 16 was halfway down when I saw her, Eileen. Her shawl wrapped tightly, her letter clutched like treasure. She saw me and waved. I waved back, smiling through tears. The ship groaned louder now. I leaned against the wall, dizzy from cold and exhaustion. My fingers barely moved, but I pulled out my diary, this diary, and wrote one last time. If this is the end, let someone know I was kind, that I stayed, that I helped, that I lived fully, even if only for a short while.